everybody. Merry Christmas and welcome to Talking All Things, All Creatures Great and Small. And this is the show where we talk about all creatures great and small. And today we wish you all a Merry Christmas because we're talking about the Christmas episode of season 5. So episode 7 is called All God's Creatures. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, so we're talking about the holiday episode. I do love that the British shows do
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
these Christmas episodes because they're so stingy with their TV
Yeah.
over there. Over there in the UK, only give us 7 episodes, 6
Yeah.
regular. Thank goodness we get a Christmas episode. But yeah, it's an interesting tradition they have there. That of course Doctor Who was famous for their Christmas
Mm-hmm.
episodes, and most of the shows do this, right? There.
Yeah, Doctor Who, Call the Midwife,
Mm-hmm.
Downton Abbey,
Yeah.
pretty much every reality show, you know.
Oh, really? The reality shows do
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, well, you're sort of your talent one, so you're Strictly Come Dancing, you're Dancing on Ice.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll all have like a Christmas special.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's definitely gotten less over the years. It felt like every show had a Christmas special.
Oh, really?
Gavin and Stacey, they had a really famous one this year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it feels like it's definitely gotten less over the years. The sort of the old reliables, which was Downton
Mm,
Abbey, Call the Midwife, and Doctor Who. They're the ones that have just kept going.
yeah. Well, in Downton, I mean not Downton Abbey, and Doctor Who, they did like New Year's for a while, right?
Yeah, they did New Year's as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I would like fault this episode, I think this is a very good episode, is that
Hmm.
it's not that Christmassy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's a
it's
very
pretty
summery
tame.
Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no snow. It's
Yeah,
all
it'd be
very
interesting
like
to it'd be interesting to know when they filmed this.
yeah.
So it feels like did we get like 1 to 3 episodes in the beginning of the season? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember
Um,
either.
I can't remember, but yeah, it definitely feels like we've gotten very like snowy,
Hmm.
festive Christmas episode in the past. So they must have filmed this probably in the
Yeah.
spring or the fall. They've definitely like autumn time. They've definitely like filmed this at a different. They definitely didn't film this in like December. And saying that, like we didn't get a lot of snow this year. Certainly not in Scotland.
Hmm.
We had maybe 1 day of snow and it didn't even come to anything. Like we didn't have any snow at all this year.
Oh, really? Is that
Yeah.
unusual?
It's not like completely unusual. I think we had like really, really bad snow probably about 10 years ago, 9 years ago. But it was really bad. It was like everything was at a standstill. And it doesn't take a lot of snow for this country to come to a standstill, trust me. Like there's like a couple of inches of snow and like buses are getting like stopped and it's just yeah, this country just doesn't cope well with snow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just gotten less and less over the years.
Yeah.
And this year, yeah, we didn't have any.
Well, it's interesting because so I grew up on the East Coast
Hmm.
in the United States, and where I was from, they just didn't have the resources to counter like
Hmm.
a big snowstorm, and
Hmm.
so they would cancel school fairly easily, and that's how I was sort of raised of like, oh, you don't go out in that, like,
Hmm.
what? We don't drive in that. That's crazy.
Hmm.
And but then I moved to Utah and they're like the exact opposite. They're like, what?
Hmm.
Of course we're not gonna cancel, you know? And
Yeah.
so it's been kind of a different thing for me. In fact, Thursday was crazy. So I was going down to Provo, which is from my work, and it's maybe 45 minutes on a long day.
Hmm.
And I had actually planned that I was going to see Paddington in Peru in between because my work ends at 3:30, and then I was like, okay, I'll go to the 4:45 showing of Paddington Peru, and then I'll get out around 6:45, and because it's an hour and 45-minute movie plus trailers, I'll get out
Hmm.
6:45. The play that I was reviewing was at 7:30, so that would be like perfect. And so that was my the best laid
The plan.
plans.
Yeah.
Um, and there was just this horrible storm, and there was like 7 car accidents. It was crazy, and it took me. I didn't arrive in Provo until after 7 o'clock. That's how long it took me, which is crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
I tried like a couple alternate routes, and those were
Mm-hmm.
super packed up, and those were had crashes. It was just there was no getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nightmare. And so yeah, it could be
Yeah.
wild dealing with the
Yeah. We
snow.
we didn't like get a lot of snow, but we did get a lot of storms this year. We had a really,
Yeah.
really bad one a couple of weeks ago, and that was like a we get a lot of like amber warnings
Oh.
for storms, but this was like a red warning. Everything was cancelled. Of course, my work
Mhm.
wasn't cancelled. Luckily, I
Yeah.
was off. Um, I think yeah, I had the week off that week. But yeah, it was really bad. It
Yeah.
was like 100 mile an hour winds. It was really, really intense. Yeah, that's probably the worst we've had this year.
Do you take the bus into work?
No, I work. I used to. I was sort of a 4 bus work day for me.
Yeah.
Like for probably like 10 years, it just got so expensive.
Oh,
Yeah, it just got so expensive. I think, and
they
the
don't have
time that I
like
had that,
they don't have a bus pass or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So they had a bus
Really
pass, and
expensive.
I would say it was like £15. It was sort of
Oh,
double that by the
a
time
lot,
I sort of finished that job. So over the years
a
it would just
lot.
gradually raise. It just got so like I say so expensive. I work local now, so I'm only a 50-minute walk. In fact,
Oh,
I
that's
was
good.
late. I was meant to start at 7:30 the other day, and I slept in because we work one day at the weekend, and I forgot to switch the days around, so I didn't set my alarm. It was
Oh,
set for
yeah.
it was set for my day off and not my actual work day. And I woke up at 7:30 and was like, it's really bright compared to what it is when I normally get up at 6 o'clock. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, I've slept in. So it literally just takes me like 10 minutes to get to work. So it's not
That's
like
the
the end
worst
of the world.
when you
Yeah.
look at I mean, that's my phone now, but when you look at your clock, you're like,
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I definitely woke up and was like, my alarm hasn't been off yet, so I can go back to sleep, and went back to sleep. So I probably woke up at the time that I was meant to get up at and went back to sleep, and then woke up again at 7:30 and was like, it's so really bright outside. And that was when I was like, oh my god. And
yeah,
it was like
I've done
it
that
was literally
too.
it was so weird. It was literally like bang on like 7:30 as well. I was like literally the time I'm meant to be in work.
Well, this Christmas special was probably one of the most Audrey based episodes that they've ever had.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was really focused around her and her story.
Hmm.
That's why I
Hmm.
think it would have been so nice, especially when they're all on that staircase after she gets the news. We'll talk about it, but
Hmm.
if there'd just been like a little moment where maybe when she gets the news, she's all excited and uh she excitedly hugs Siegfried or something, just like a little moment of like, oh, this is a long hug, or I don't know, just
Yeah.
something
Just
would have been.
something, and then maybe Tristan is like does a double take, or somebody like
Yes, that would have
you
been
know,
so
yeah.
good.
It's so I didn't watch the episode at Christmas.
Uh-huh.
Um I think I watched the first 2 episodes of the season, and then I was like, I'm gonna wait until we start doing the podcast just so it feels a little bit fresher. And I'm not rewatching. Um
Yeah.
but I swear, like when this episode aired, I'm not like massive on spoilers or whatever, that I don't really care.
Yeah.
Um I just sort of was glancing at things. I wasn't like looking in depth. But
Yeah.
I swear I saw a lot of people like hyping up the Siegfried and Mrs. Hall
I
stuff.
saw
Like,
that too.
and I was like so excited because I was, oh, there's something's gonna happen, and I was like, oh,
It's like, come
I was
on.
like, yeah, I'm sure I saw like gifs or something, and like people like really hyping up the episodes, and then for
Yeah.
some reason it just didn't deliver in the
Yeah.
episode.
That aspect it didn't
Yeah.
deliver. Ho ho ho.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
She's stressing out because not only do they have the Christmas celebration, but they have Jimmy's birthday.
Ugh, the worst
And-
Christmas birthday.
Yeah, I forgot that he was born on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
But so she really wants to make Jimmy a cake, and
Mhm.
but they have the rations and everything, and this new baby for Jimmy is, I think it's a new baby, they've been a long time since filming, going from 6 to 7. I was like, oh, this baby's so cute, adorable. They got a very, very, very cute
Mhm.
baby.
Yeah, sure.
Adorable. So they say no chance for Christmas pudding, but there's hope of getting a goose. So she's going to use 12 coupons to pick up the goose on the 21st, and
Mhm.
she tells Siegfried to if he can pick it up. And there was one moment where she says, "My boss is quite sweet once you get to know him." That was about all they gave us.
Yeah.
Episode. They talk a lot about potatoes and sprouts, and I was confused about what that meant. If that meant like alfalfa or sprouts, like what kind of sprouts? I was confused, but then I looked it up, and they're talking about like Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts, yeah, the worst part of the Christmas dinner. The worst.
The worst part, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
like them
yeah,
myself.
yeah, nobody likes them.
No.
It doesn't matter what you cook them. Like, there's all of these people that are like, you have to cook them a certain way or like
Yeah.
season them a certain way, and it's like no matter what you do, they taste the same. They taste
Yeah.
like sprouts.
Yeah. We don't just
Sorry,
refer to them as sprouts. Like I think of like alfalfa or something like that when I think of
Mhm.
sprouts. And you can't really cook sprouts. But yeah, I agree. There's something about all those carnivorous vegetables are like they have a sulfur taste to them to me.
hmm
Like I don't even
Yeah.
like cauliflower.
Yeah, I don't like cauliflower either.
No.
Like, yeah,
People
like
keep
cauliflower
trying.
cheese is cauliflower cheese a thing
Yeah.
for you?
Oh yeah.
It's like,
People try to sell
Ugh.
off like cauliflower and like pizza and rice and stuff. I'm like, no,
oh, stop
no,
it.
thank you.
Or the worst I seen was this supermarket here. It's called M&S. It's sort of like a more sort of high end.
Yeah.
And obviously with the cost of living, it's not so high end anymore. It's actually quite affordable. One of the more affordable places.
Yeah.
But they had cauliflower steaks, and that's when I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I've had enough. I've had enough.
You're like, that's the
Stop
final
it.
straw.
Yeah, it's a slice of cauliflower.
Yeah, I remember saying that the other day. I'm like, you're never going to convince me that cauliflower is a potato. Just stop. It's
Yeah.
not happening. Yeah,
Ugh.
gross. I'm with you 100% on that. It's interesting to me that they wouldn't just have their own chickens and their own geese and their own like they
I thought that.
they have that whole space.
hmm Yeah, I for sure thought that they had chickens.
Yeah. And she's saying, oh, we cannot get a roast, that there's more of a chance of flying to the moon than getting a roast. And this is that I have a lead on something better. And you would also think that maybe Helen's family could hook them up with a roast,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. It was sort of
or
strange.
animals of some kind.
Or a chicken. Like if they don't have a chicken, like Helen's family must have a chicken.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah. So that's interesting, but that's kind of the plot of at the start of Audrey's arc in this episode. And so then we also, another big plot of this episode is that Tristan is teaching the soldiers how to work with animals.
Mhm.
He says a horse has colic. You can see he's in pain, but the mule just soldiers on. So how do you know? And he's teaching these young recruits, and they form a bond.
Mhm.
You know, and then he gets assigned by the general to find some local carrier pigeons. So that becomes his plot.
Yeah. Oh God. Like, do you ever read that thing about the pigeons? How like we're so awful to them now? Like, it's because like they were so important during the war that they were, obviously like bred to the point where we have like millions of them.
Yeah,
But they
they're
were like
basically
so yeah, they're just basically like vermin now, but they were like so important. It's just because they don't have a job anymore. And I was like, oh my God, that's so sad.
rats with wings is basically
Rats
what
with
they are.
wings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so then uh we have little Christopher collecting odd pets, including snails, and he catches a fox at one point.
Hmm.
And this is, I guess, where people got super like excited because with Audrey and Siegfried is because so she wants Siegfried to treat the fox. And I guess
Hmm.
at this point, like foxes were basically kind of considered vermin. They were kind of a
Hmm.
pest
Yeah.
and bothering farmers and things. And we get this one moment where he's like, I think I have to put the fox down.
Hmm.
And Audrey says, who are you to decide who lives and dies?
Hmm.
What do you think of
Oh my
that?
God. Um, I, I love foxes. We have so many foxes around here. Um, and yeah, it definitely causes issues because we have a lot of people that feed them. Um, and it's sort of, sorry if you can hear my dog like panting in the background. Um, it it just causes a lot of issues because we've sort of invaded their space to the point where they don't have, the places that they should have. Because we've sort of built over everything. You can't sit on the lap. Um, so I feel so sorry for them, but there are people that do feed them and try and befriend them, and um, I've certainly had issues of people in my neighborhood sort of feeding them. I've been leaving out food, and
Mhm.
domestic animals eating them and eating that food and getting sick.
Mhm.
So yeah, like, and then it also sort of like Siegfried says, it makes them lose their sort of fight or flight instincts because they become too trusting of humans.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a complicated one.
Well, and the other thing too is that some of these animals, I don't know about foxes, but I know raccoons, they feed
Hmm.
on a circular path. And so once you
Mm,
get in their path, like you never should feed raccoons because once they've eaten one place, they'll come back there and again and again and again and again and again. And so it's really bad. It can be really bad. And so he knows that, but she's just so upset at this point that she does apologize at the end for saying that. But that was like the closest that we got to like an intimate moment between the two of them.
hmm.
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
has happened is we find out that the HMS Prince of Wales and HMS Repulse have been shot down by the Japanese, and her son Edward is on the Repulse. And this is a real thing that happened. The sinking of these ships. This was in 1941, December 10th, and this was the same part of the same thing that happened with Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
The same campaign, which I have to admit, I had never heard of this. I did not know about this particular, but sounds like it was a pretty big moment for the war when it comes to Great Britain.
Yeah, I'll have to admit I didn't really know much about this either.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered if this was something that you guys were like, because we learn all about Pearl Harbor, and so I wondered if it was the same way.
Yeah, this one doesn't sound, familiar, especially from like I only did history, and I didn't really do history like further in high school, and even just like as far as documentaries and things, it's probably came up. I've just not paid attention, or
that's interesting.
really learned about
that. It says the attack on Pearl Harbor only 2 days earlier on the other side of the international date line, and that all three were all aerial attacks by Japan. There's tons on the Wikipedia about it. The morning after the battle, Churchill received a phone call at his bedside from Sir Dudley Pound, the first Sea Lord. Prime Minister, I have to report to you that the Prince of Wales and the Repulse have been sunk by the Japanese. We think by aircraft. Tom Phillips is drowned. Are you sure it's true? There's no doubt at all. Churchill hangs up. In all of the war, I never received a more direct shock. As I turned over and twisted in bed, the full horror of the news sank in upon me. There were no British or American ships in the Indian Ocean or the Pacific except the American survivors of Pearl Harbor who were hastening back to California. Across this vast expanse of waters, Japan was supreme, and we everywhere were weak and naked. So that's kind of interesting, I thought. And I guess it says here, the Japanese considered salvaging the ships, or at least their radar equipment, in 1942 as early, but the wrecks of the two ships were found after the war, and both are in a nearly upside down position. Buoys are attached to the propeller shafts, and flags of the Royal Navy are attached to the lines and are regularly changed by divers. These Royal Navy wrecks are Crown property. Prince of Wales' Belle was removed from the wreck in 2002 by an authorized team of Royal Navy and British civilian divers in response to fears it would be stolen by unauthorized divers. Belle is now on display at the Merseyside Maritime Museum in Liverpool. It is a tradition for every passing Royal Navy ship to perform a remembrance service over the side of the wrecks, which I thought was kind of interesting. So
yeah, Liverpool's there's a lot of history to see in Liverpool.
Yeah, maritime. But anyway, so Audrey obviously is very upset about this. She's very concerned, and because her son would have been at the front of the Repulse, she fears for the worst.
Yeah, he was in the engine room.
Engine room, yeah, that's right. So she says, I just can't imagine him. I can't imagine him dying. It's her to kind of lash out at Siegfried. She gets a letter from Edward, but it's dated December 2nd. So it's before. Yeah. And he asks in the letter to go visit a fellow soldier. So that's also part of the plot. She goes there. And what do you think about all this for Audrey?
Yeah, I thought it felt like a little mini movie, this episode, just in the aspect of that storyline. But yeah, it just sort of, I just kept thinking about how difficult it was back then to get news.
Yeah.
Like having to wait every day for the paper. Yeah. And even that news in the paper is old.
Yeah.
Like it's just so, like, I can't even imagine, like, the fact that this went on for weeks. Like what does that do to a person?
Yeah.
Like waiting for that news, like, ugh,
Because she knows that half of the
half are
ship
gone.
are gone.
Yeah.
And so she's looking in the newspaper, and Helen tries to help her, says, "You're not alone." And she's just
Mhm.
kind of like, "I need to be alone." So that's, like everybody responds to these things differently. That's the thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
And she probably has lots of guilt because things had, it's not like her and Edward left close,
Yeah.
you
They
know?
just literally like sorted things out
Yeah.
between them. You know, it was probably the best that they've gotten on in years when he left. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was sort of surprised we didn't see him in the episodes. I thought they were gonna, but I think it's more
Yeah.
realistic to have it be the way that it was.
Yeah. I wondered about that too. Like having him show up on Christmas or something like that. I could have seen that. But yeah, this is more grounded. So we also have, so Tristan is in charge with getting more of these pigeons. He meets this man named Sykes, and he who's an expert pigeon trainer, but he finds that they have these bright green droppings.
Mhm.
Hi, puppy.
It's a nightmare.
So this whole thing that this Sykes is very like skeptical, not easy to work with, but he does take one of the pigeons, and this whole dynamic was pretty funny. Like
Yeah.
Siegfried sees when Siegfried sees the pigeon, he's like, "It'll be a problem because this pigeon is dead."
Yeah. Like the pigeon lasted probably about an hour in Tristan's care.
Yeah. Yeah. See, there we go. Got it. Okay. So then we have I like when he says a pigeon post-mortem is an extremely delicate procedure. That was funny. That
Yeah.
was funny. And you have Siegfried basically like being bossy. One mistake and it's over, which I liked a lot. And so Tristan, he can't find a breeder. He's been putting off telling Sykes about the bird. And Sykes says that other birds have died.
Mhm.
And what's going on. And that's when, and he says, "I've warned other breeders all about you." And so he's trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not winning the bird breeder the bird breeder's over anyway.
Yeah. And so then he figures out that might be some kind of lead poisoning.
Mhm.
He's like, how could that be? He sees the feed, and then he actually watches Sykes throw the feed into the cage, and
Mhm.
the paint comes off when he does it.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was sitting when he was doing it and sort of throwing it up and it was hitting
Yeah.
the paint. But yeah, it's
Gets the pigeon sick.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've had this storyline for like horses before.
Yes.
When we've definitely had this before.
Well, and there was the lead in the paint
Mhm.
from the that killed Bingo
Bingo, yeah.
too. There's that. But I like when Tristan's like, "I think you owe me an apology." It's like, not likely.
Mhm.
So that's funny. And then like Sykes says, "I've decided that you are no longer the bird killer of Derby."
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
So then there's sort of this debate, like Audrey, she's like cleaning a lot. Again, she wants to be left alone. And they're like, should we just cancel the birthday and Christmas because Mrs. Hall is sad?
Mhm.
And this is when he says they should put down the fox. Why should you get to decide whether he lives or dies? That's not right. That's not fair.
Mm.
So I think that's the moment that people were getting real excited about.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it was a good moment, but it just shows how few moments they've given us. If that's the one
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we'll get excited
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. And there still wasn't really a hint of anything
No,
romantic. So yeah, it was a bit.
it's still very, very, very chaste and professional at
Mm.
this point. And so she's just very upset. And so Helen ends up making Jimmy a cake, and that cake did not look great. Looked very tipsy.
Lopsided, yeah.
Lopsided, yeah. Are you a cake person, or for your birthday, do you prefer other desserts?
Yeah, I do like cakes. Yeah, I am
Mhm.
more of I prefer cheesecake. Probably that's my favorite
Cheesecake.
cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she would have loved it. My dad's birthday party, because he just turned
Mhm.
70. My mom made this cheesecake. It was the best cheesecake I've ever had. It was really good. And the sad part is my mom can't even eat it because she can't have dairy or
Jeez.
wheat right now.
That must, yeah, it's awful.
Like
Watching everybody else enjoy it.
yeah. And so then Helen's dad comes in and gives Jimmy this cute little playset that he made. I loved
Mhm.
that. That was adorable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little farm sort
Yeah.
of playset.
And I like how competitive they're all getting over their gifts.
Yeah.
He likes this
Yeah.
better, little Jimmy. And they, as long as he's happy, that's all that, and healthy, that's all that matters. But I loved the little vet bag that
Yeah.
James gave to Jimmy. That was so cute.
Yeah.
So cute. And then we have this when Audrey says that I see him in the water clinging to the wreckage. I just keep going round and round every possible place he could be. I can't imagine him being dead. I have to believe he'll come home. And so that's when Tristan picks up the phone, and there's a long distance call for Audrey Hall, and he goes outside and finds her. She answers and just starts crying. And I mean, this was a good performance. Merry Christmas, Mom. Happy Christmas, Mom, is what he says. Oh, yeah. I loved that just moment of all of them on the stairs.
All being together, yeah.
It was really nice. Really nice. It's Edward. Happy Christmas, Mom. And he's injured. See, he got out of it because he's injured in the hospital in Singapore. So again, kind of like James, he was lucky to be sick and injured. And then we get so Siegfried forgets about the goose, and
of course he does.
Yeah, he's like, I completely forgot. And then Tristan, he gets this picture from these recruits, and he gets pretty upset about it. And he says, it's just you forget sometimes that you know exactly what you're sending these men off to. And part of me has to believe everything will be all right. It's selfish, really. But you have to keep the hope alive to survive.
Yeah.
Especially because he might be back out there.
Yeah. I feel like we're sort of in for it next season because they've sort of hinted at it a couple of times now. So yeah, I feel like
because you can't have an autopsy on the experience if it could still be happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was good between Siegfried and Tristan though at that moment.
Yeah.
And they end up with their Christmas dinner of mashed potatoes and sprouts. That's all they had.
Yeah. I'm sure it's more than most people at that time, so
yeah. I mean, they probably could have made like some kind of sauce or something for the potatoes, but
yeah, hopefully they have like a gravy or something.
Yeah. Work with what you got, I guess. You could have made like some kind of roux type maybe sauce if you didn't have meat. It could be something like a just like if they had eggs they could make an egg sauce, but I don't even know if they had that. Mashed potatoes for dinner, and Audrey wants to give the toast, happy birthday and Merry Christmas, and then they end playing charades and having Christmas. And it was a very light on Christmas episode. It was almost more about Jimmy's birthday.
Yeah, and I think that's always the trouble, and especially it being a first birthday, they couldn't really ignore it and have it be sort of in the background. But yeah, it was very like even just like on the decor. I think they sort of have to have it a little bit muted because of the time period and everything that's going on. So yeah, they just sort of had like a little bit of holly garland and a tree, but yeah.
But they could have, I think, had like a little bit more music, just made it like a little bit more. But again, they have James bringing in the holly. That was nice in the beginning. And they got the Christmas tree and stuff like that. Or maybe they could have had them giving each other small presents, or it was more just about what we're going to give Jimmy. And because kids are more fun to buy presents for anyway, or make presents for. I thought that Helen's dad was really cute in this episode, very endearing.
Yeah, it's probably the nicest he's been.
Yeah.
Like the most fun he's been.
Seeing him with baby Jimmy was really cute.
Yeah, I found his soft spot.
Yeah. So, and the fox is recovering, and so she's relieved. Well, let us know what you think of this Christmas special. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter, and make sure you check out all of our All Creatures Great and Small episodes. We've recapped every episode. It's been a lot of fun. In our last episode, we gave our thoughts of the season overall, but it's been very, very strong. Can't wait for the next season. But we want to hear from you, what you think. And Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really, really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store, so check that out. We have some All Creatures Great and Small inspired merch. Take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.